So, as I've been breaking out of my box a little bit and learning to kind of embrace creativity, be myself, be less concerned about what other people think, that kind of thing, unmasking, embracing me for who I am and all that good stuff, all that positive self-care type things, right? Um, there's this phenomenon that's happened that I've been aware of, but it took me a little bit to put my finger on it. But I've decided to call it feedback, right? Because feedback, when people give you feedback on things, it can be useful. I had some good feedback on some dance videos because I really like strobe light effect. And some people gave me some good feedback. They were like, your videos are going to give me seizures. And I was like, oh, okay, let me change the lighting up. I'll use some other kind of lighting effects, right? It was good feedback. Give me a perspective I didn't have because I love the flashy lights, right? But but then there's this other kind of feedback that the best example I experienced was when I was working at Starbucks. I was working at a drive-through store, right? And our headsets sometimes would be glitchy. And like I would go to take an order or something, and there would be this in my own headset, my own voice would repeat like a second delayed. And it's in that kind of situation, you'd think, and I tried this so many times, if I really just focus on what I'm trying to say, then I can keep saying it and just get done with this process, right? Because I know that it's an echo of my own voice and I don't need to pay attention to it because it's not something I need to listen to. But for some reason, even though I know that, I cannot stop the disruption it has, like where I'll be halfway through what I'm saying and I just can't keep saying it because that echo. And I started to realize that that kind of feedback was kind of what was happening to my creative process when I was getting feedback from other people on my videos or on my stop motions or on my dance. Um, and took me a while to figure out why. Like the only thing I would notice, it would just kind of stop or slow my creative process. Like I'd be in the middle of making a series of videos that I was really enjoying making, stop motion ones, and I would get feedback, and suddenly it was like I had a lot harder time making the next video. And it wasn't even like it was always bad feedback. Sometimes it was good feedback. And for me personally, probably not for everybody, but the worst kind of feedback was like when people were trying to give me ideas. Because let me tell you, I am not in shortage of ideas in any way. Like my head is constantly exploding with them. It's like it's its own special kind of torture, like because I don't have the tools to get things out of my head. But like the other problem with feedback is that sometimes when people are giving feedback, they're assuming that their feedback is actually displaying their assumption of what, like they're watching my video expecting that I'm trying to be like other YouTubers or I'm trying to be a high level like stop motion person. And I'm like, okay, no, I am a person who has like no good software, no fancy cameras, nothing like that, and I make everything that I work with. Like I know my stuff is going to be like budget. Like I'm just trying to stop bottling all this creativity up. I'm trying to have an outlet, right? But I have so many ideas that I'd like to do with these things, but it's hard because I don't have like a good, fast, quick outlet for these things. And so it's like, anyways, but I would go through all this and people don't understand how painstaking some of these things are and how much like getting out of my own way too, like being hypercritical of myself and then finally putting something out there. And then people are like, have you tried doing it a completely different way? And I'm like, no, why? But anyways, um, but that's the particular type of feedback that I dislike because I'm not somebody who's trying to like put myself out there in order to have and if like I'm not focused, I'm not a goal oriented person. I'm a process oriented person. And it's when I get feedback that's about the goal, it's like very disruptive to me because I'm just trying to focus on my process. But anyway, the other kind of feedback that was disruptive was like this like positive feedback that was about things that weren't really what mattered to me. Like for example, I make a lot of weird stop motion that's my weird sense of humor and funny things that go through my head because I like them. And I figure, hey, maybe somebody out there has my wonky sense of humor. It'd be amazing to find some people like that. I know that not everybody's going to get it, But then I would make one video that is way more like I made a video of a story that my grandfather told, like he recorded stories for us and I made one of his stories. And so it's a lot easier for people to track with. It's not a weird joke. It's not something that they're like, what is she even talking about? And so people would give me so much positive feedback about that. But it was like they didn't want us, they were, and sometimes there was kind of an emphasis of this is what you should be doing, when I'm like, the whole reason I started doing stop motion was to create, like, to create a medium to communicate all my crazy ideas. That's what I'm trying to get out, you know? I'm not just trying to make other people's stories, you know? But anyways, and another disruptive one for me was when I would do I was doing dance videos, but I would share some dance videos, but they weren't really like for the sake of dance, like, because I'm not a good dancer. I'm good for me, but I'm not trying to be like, look how impressive I am. I'm like, look at, I'm being bold. I'm being confident, even though I'm a bad dancer. I'm doing it anyways. And my videos were, a lot of the videos at the time, I was talking more about the process of dancing, even though I'm not good at it. That was the focus, right? But then people would say things and make me feel like I should put on different outfits, or and so it would, and at first it disrupted me in that I was like, okay, and then I did try putting on different outfits and doing all this stuff, and it was so much more stressful because instead of me focusing on my process and what am I trying to communicate, I was focusing on how is everybody else receiving this. And I am autistic. I think differently, and that has been my struggle my whole life, is constantly second guessing myself because everybody else in the room is thinking the same thing and I'm thinking something completely different. And so for years I would always just try and default to the group even though I didn't understand it, and this whole creative process has been learning more to trust myself and my own focus and my own perspective. And so it was kind of like it just disrupted the whole point of the process for me. And it just happened so easily because it's like old thinking of trying to, match the group thinking, that like I didn't even realize it was going on, but I just would notice like that my creativity would dip and it would be hard to make videos or hard to do things. And eventually on that channel, I started turning off the comments because, especially, there's something also like extra disruptive when it's people I know that are commenting, because there's already like misunderstandings that have gone on for years between people I know, or friends, or I know enough about them to kind of know that they really don't like certain things about my content, and so I can kind of hear it in what they're saying. And so anyways, and there was just also these added things where I would get one-off comments that were at the wrong time. Like I would make like kind of some of my weird humor jokes, right? Like, and I had comments that were like about me being on drugs. And it was at a time where I was feeling really alienated because of my brain type anyways. And so it was just like a kind of a kick in the face. I think they were saying it jokingly, like, ha ha ha, like we can both laugh about this, but they didn't know that I'm autistic and I don't fit with most people. And so it was just like another reminder of you're weird kind of thing. And so it was just, anyways, I think that the point is really that the feedback of lots of different kinds, good, bad, whatever, it really can be like that feedback in the headset, that it can just disrupt what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to make, what I'm trying to accomplish, because it's like this discordant echo in my ear that is throwing off my focus. So now that I realize that, I turn off my comments on my creative channel, and I try to not bring out my ideas as often. I keep them. I don't talk about that stuff as much anymore because sometimes people are just giving feedback because they're making conversation, and the stuff that I'm talking about is really deep and important to me sometimes, and the responses are just this like whatever they come up with off the cuff. And so because I know it disrupts me, I don't want to put people in a position where they're making comments that is disrupting my process, and so it's better to just kind of keep it to myself until I'm done with it. And then when I share things, I just don't look back. I just throw it down and, hey, enjoy it or not, right? And then just keep going with the next project. But I do like comments on this channel though that are more about people who can, like, from people who can relate with being neurodivergent and that kind of stuff. But anyways, I hope I made some sense somewhere in there.